What's good, guys? I'm back. and yeah, we passed the MCRTP, and just like before, how I went from enrolling in that, learning nothing, making videos on every single lab to prep for the exam, the same thing I'm going to do with the AWS course, which is the ACRTP, Azure Cloud Red Team Professional, something like that. But yeah, so the first lab we're going to do is Intro to AWS IAM Enumeration. And just like before, I've already gone ahead and completed the lab. And this was going to be me kind of like explaining the way. I didn't really know whether to make a video on this specifically. And there wasn't any videos out there as well for this lab. Because in general, it's just so basic that there's not much to explain in it. But nevertheless, since I'm a perfectionist, I like to complete all the labs that's involved, and this is one of them. So I'm gonna go ahead and explain it. It's probably gonna be a short video, but because it's so like basic, I'm gonna go a bit ahead and explain a bit more as well. So there's gonna be very general topics in this. And besides that, what else is there to explain? Yeah, I got a new mic, so hopefully I sound better than before. Like slowly, I'm improving my setup, and I'm gonna eventually start showing my face as well. But we'll get to that later. And I think that's it. There's nothing else to explain. But let me see. Let me think for a second. Yeah, I think that's it. Let's read the scenario. You are a security consultant hired by the global logistics company Huge Logistics. Following suspicious activities, you are tasked with enumerating the IAM user dev01 and mapping out any potential compromised resources. Your mission is to enumerate and evaluate IAM roles, policies, and permissions. All right, then. So starting the machine, we get the account ID, which is right over here, and we get the username and the password. But one of the things that we need, and it's in this lab, this whole thing is free, right? So you guys can just make an account on Pwned Labs and start right away. But yeah, this whole thing is free. But the thing that they provide us, which we're going to need, is the access key and the secret access key. So let's go ahead and log in to this user. I'm going to use AWS configure to log in. And we're also going to create a profile for this user. And let's just call it profile dev01, which is its name. And I'm also going to zoom in here. And it's asking us for the access key, which we have over here. Let's take this, copy this, paste, and the secret access key over here. And we can leave the region name as blank and the output format as blank. And since this is a very basic lab, I'm going to go ahead and explain basic topics as well, because yeah, I'm sure that most of you guys who enrolled and are doing this lab are also new to AWS. So if you go to the cd.aws, which is going to be in the home directory of where you run the configure command, when you go to this, you'll find two types of files, config and credentials files. In the credential files, you'll notice that there is a profile, the profile name that we made, which is dev01, and it has our AWS access key ID and AWS secret access key. Every time we make a profile, it gets added here. So if we make a profile, for example, I think I'm going to go ahead and do it. Let's call it dev2. And let's also take the same one as before, paste. And take this as well. Paste it in there and keep the rest as the same. Let's cat credentials, and we'll notice that there's another profile over here. So it's dev02. So we can use either one of them, but yeah, we're just going to go with dev01. And yeah, let's first, since we're logged in, we can go ahead and enumerate some stuff. Let's start off with seeing we're running this command, which is AWS STS get caller identity. This is kind of like a who am I command. And this should give an error. And the reason why it gave an error is because it says unable to locate credentials. What happens is if you don't use the profile over here, this profile dev01, if you don't do this, it's going to default to, or it's going to use the credentials of a default profile. So when you kind of like, the best way to say this, if you log in with AWS configure without using the profile, and you populate the access key and secret access key, it's going to create a profile over here in your credentials file, which is going to include the default value over here. This is default value that's written over here is going to be what a basic AWS command uses. So it's unable to look at the credentials because there is no default value in or profile in this credentials file. So we got to add profile dev01. And we see over here it works. So we got the account, the user ID, and the ARN, which is kind of like the GUID or globally unique identifier for a resource or a user in this case. This is a user and we are dev01. Let's go ahead and also run this command. This gives us more information about the user. So AWS IAM get user. Since we are a user, we are able to run this command. Obviously, it's just giving us unable to locate credentials because we didn't write the profile over here. And I'm going to keep forgetting that. And there we go. And one of the things that profiles are, sorry, not profiles. Every time you do this and you get a user's information, one of the things that they contain are tags. Tags are like a key value pair, which could contain sensitive information. So that's there. That's one of the things that this lab talks about. And we can go ahead and list the groups that we are in. So this lists groups for user. We choose our username, which is dev01. And it will go ahead and list the groups that our user is in. And keep forgetting profile. And there we go. We are in no groups. If we attempt to list the groups in general, we'll notice that we have access denied because we don't have that permission. So it's list groups. Go ahead and remove usernames because list groups will attempt to dump all of the groups. And again, we just don't have the list groups permission. We're not authorized to perform this action and so on. So let's go ahead and list the attached user policies. And I keep forgetting profile dev01. And we see that there's two attached policies. Now, before we continue, this command list attached user policies displayed managed policies. Managed policies are policies that you can reuse. They're reusable across users and roles, as well as, and this one right here, we have AWS managed policy. This is provided by AWS. And then we have this custom one that we have made, which well, it's called customer managed policies. So yeah, these are the two types of policies that we have. Another way that we can have policies attached to us, these are managed ones. We could have them basically attached to us directly. These type of policies will be called inline policies, which are directly attached to that specific user. So these are like almost like, these are reusable, while this one is attached to the particular user, and we're probably going to get an error over here again. I'm going to use profile. Hopefully you guys understand what I'm explaining. But yeah, this policy is attached directly to the user and it is not reusable, while this can be attached to multiple users and is reusable across the organization. It's managed policies, while this is just inline policies. That's what we call it. List user policies, while this is list attached user policies. And one of the things that these managed policies have, these ones over here, is that they can contain versions of them. So AWS stores the versions every time you change or update a policy. It updates and creates a new version of it. And we could list all those versions using this command over here. list policy versions, and we can provide the ARN, which is the global unique identifier, you could call it. I just think of it as a GUID. Um, but yeah. um, and we add our profile dev01 over here, and this is it, the ARN, which stands for Amazon Resource Name. And let me again add that profile. And we can see over here that the current one which it is using is version 4, while there are 3 other previous versions. So what we can do now is we can get version 4. So we can use get policy version ID 4. And we can again use profile dev01. And there we go. We have these permissions. Okay. Yeah. So as we can see over here, we have these types of actions which are allowed, which includes guard duty describe. You can use any command that uses describe, get, or list in them, which is in guard duty. So the resource, although it says all of it, it's specifically to guard duty over here. And the actions over here, these are other actions that we can do. These actions are also just read-only things for the organization. This is just basically involved with guard duty to help understand it better. So yeah, this is just useful when you have this guard duty permissions. But yeah, basically we only have read-only access. We can go ahead and enumerate the other managed policy that we have over here, and we should start with getting the versions of it. So let's go here and grab this command. We'll go with profile dev01. And again, we have a couple of versions over here. The one that we are interested in is version 4, as this is enabled. It's true. So we can go ahead and get this specific version. Version 7. So version 7 is what is enabled. And my copy paste is not working well, but that's fine. And as we can see over here, we have a couple of actions over here and the resources that we can use it on. And I am actually going to, it's kind of hard to understand how these actions will apply to each one of these. Each one of these are like, get a couple of them. But what I like, you'll understand in a bit, but what I like to do is take this and put it into ChatGPT and just ask it to map this out. Let's do map out these actions with the resources. Let's get a visual. Or a diagram would have been probably better. Just use a diagram. That sucks. Let's copy this and make a new chat. That is not what I wanted it to do. But yeah, we'll just use this. No issues here. So as you can see, we have get user policies, and we can use it on nope, it's not. All right, I actually want to use a nice diagram for this. go ahead and do this like a tree. Okay, this is much better. IAM actions to resource mapping. So we have all these permissions that the user can do. You can get user information, get user policies, list groups for users, which came out as nothing, empty, list attached user policies. We found that, and list user policies as well. We were able to do all of these commands. Over here, get role. This role over here will allow us to get role and list attach role policies. Just refer to this bit over here. Versions. Okay, so this policy allows all of these. Sorry, I'm just having a brain fart. But my point is that you can see that this permission that we have, IAM get policy, it allows us to, it's used across different types of policies, which are mentioned in the resources. As you can see, if there's two policies over here, dev01 and this one as well, it's used in two areas, this one and this one. That's why I like mapping it out, because it shows that, hey, you have this resource and you can do these types of things with it. You know, you have this resource, your user, you could do these type of things. These are the permissions you have on that resource. This is the role, we can get the role, and we can also list attach role policies. So the thing that stands out in this whole thing is we've seen this, we've gotten the policy versions, get policy versions, and we listed the policy, or we listed it and we got it as well. Same thing with dev01, we listed it and we just got the policy, which it showed us this whole thing. And now the next thing that we are going to do is take a look at this role. So we're going to list attached, or we can get the role first, whichever one works, or list attached role policies, because these roles, they have policies that allow, or will allow us to have more permissions on things. But before we continue, remember we also had our one more policy that was already attached, our inline policy. And as we can see over here, scrolling up, yep, this was our managed policies that we are looking at right now. And this was our inline policy, the S3 access. This gives us access to S3. So this is going on. So yeah, let's go ahead and clear this. And now, so we mapped it out. Roles can contain policies, and we can list policies attached to roles. So let's run this command. List attach role policies and the role name, which is this, and we'll also add the profile dev01. And referring to this, we can see that we can list attach role policies. And as expected, the one that we had backend dev policy over here, which was also shown in the other policy, backend dev policy, is attached to backend dev role. Now let's get information on this role as we have that terms. And we can get that using this. Get role, the role name, and we can see that this role is, or the action that we have is we can assume it. And the principal here is user dev01, which is us. So we can assume it, and it grants permissions to backend dev developers. Or once we assume it, we'll have this policy's permission, or whatever permission this policy grants. So we can assume it, but let's go ahead and get the information for this policy first. So do this, backend dev policy. As we can see over here, backend dev policy, we can get the policy, which we're doing right now. Policy. Policy defining permissions for backend developers. So we don't have anything over here. I think I just wrote a wrong command. Reveals the current version. Okay, yeah. So this is just getting the current version of it, which is version number 1. This get policy command. We can also get policy version. We can also do a command like this. This is getting the current version, which is version 1. Or we could list the versions as we've done before. And I'm going to go ahead and also do that. So list policy version over here. And we're just going to change the ARN to this. And this should show us all the versions. We do have permissions for that, as we can see over here. List policy version. And it shows us that version 1 is true. The two ways of getting this is the current one, and this will list the versions. So let's go ahead and get that version. And again, we can refer this over here. We can get policy version. Get policy version. And profile dev01. And this get policy was, I believe it was the first one. So my bad over there. This was the first one. This is where we're actually getting information on this policy. And we can see here that we can do quite, or I think I wrote the wrong one. Version 1. Oops. Oh, right over here. Copied the wrong command. Again, let's add that profile. And we can see here that we have the ability to describe instances, and we can also list secrets from all resources. But if we want to get a specific secret value or describe a secret, it can only be done on this specific resource, and it gives us the secret customer, fraud customers, and then this value over here. So if we assume this role, to explain it in a more basic sense, if we assume this role, backend dev, this role has this policy attached to it. This policy grants us permission to get the value or the secret value of this thing or this resource in secret manager, or this secret, yeah, pretty much. But you guys get the point. So, but in this CTF, you don't have to go that route. That's the extra step that we will be conducting. But we can just get out of this. And the thing that we are going to do for this one specifically is go back to that inline policy that we found before, which gives us S3 access. So again, if we go back over here, I'm going to do this once more. List groups, let's attach, list user policies, this one. So we'll get inline policies. Which we have right over here, S3 access. And we'll add profile dev01. And this will go ahead and show us what this inline policy can do. And we see here that we can list buckets and get objects from this resource. Now let's go ahead and do that. We can do that using this command over here. Just an ls on this resource using our profile. I want to do, I should have done a curl way as well, but if I go ahead and do that, nah, I don't think for this video I gotta go that far. It's pretty basic. And we can go ahead and copy this over here to our own machine. We can copy this flag value, which is in this bucket, copy this to our own machine. And if ls, we can see flag.txt is here. So I'm going to remove that, and we'll go ahead with what we were doing before, where we found this role. We found that backend dev role, and backend dev role, which gives us this perms and allows us to get this secret. So let's go ahead and do that. And starting off first, we have to assume this role. So when we assume this role, this is the command that we are going to use, assume role, the ARN of the role that we want to assume. And let me check if role session name is even needed. Let me just remove, I don't think it's needed. Okay, I guess it's needed. Let's go ahead and just call this devs01 session. And there we go. We have our session token, secret access key, and this access key ID. Let's go ahead and create a profile for this. I'm going to go ahead and just open another tab. I'm going to zoom in a bit. And nano credentials. We can call this, I'll just call it role01. The access key ID is this. And for roles, the beginning of the access key is going to be start with ASIA, and for users is going to be AKIA. For here, we'll put this value. AWS underscore. Let's me remember what it's called. I think it's session underscore token. And we'll find out right now. So now if we cat credentials, we can see we have this profile. And this profile will then give us this permission of this role. So we can go ahead and list the secrets. AWS session token, yep. List the secrets. And the reason why we're doing US East 1 over here is because if we scroll back over here to our permissions, when we were enumerating this policy, you can see that it's accessing the resource in US East 1. So we're assuming that this secret is over here, and we're just using this command, list secrets. And that's basically what we got. We got the same ARN as above. And the name of this secret is prod customers. So now let's get the value of this. In order to do that, we will use this command over here, AWS secret manager, get secret value, and the secret ID, which is the secret's name. And when you do this command, it's basically just going to take this name over here and search up in its database to find this ARN or this specific value. And should give us some information. And it did give us some database information, as it says over here, description, access to MySQL prod database containing customer data. And there we found some sensitive data. So yeah, that's it for this video. Hopefully you guys learned something. You know, sometimes reading isn't for everybody. Most people don't like reading. And I thought this video would still be needed. And since I'm a perfectionist, I want to do every single thing involved in this prepping for the ACRTP. But yeah, take care guys, and see ya.